Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Mr. Vynsley Fernandes, Chief Executive Officer at NXTDIGITAL, joining in. Welcome to the show, Vynsley, and it's a pleasure to speak to you as well. My first question coming to you is, a business that you are in, I think that's one of the sectors probably which has seen some positive impact of COVID, at least in terms of people sitting at home, watching television, etc. However, how have we maneuvered from lockdown to now with regard to the impact?
Okay. First of all, Hiral, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity. You're absolutely right. Everyone says that, it's a great, in a way, it's a silver lining for the industry that we're in, where people are locked down and they want to watch television or they want broadband. We're chatting, in fact, right now on a broadband connection. But no, it's not easy for most of the organizations that provide this kind of service. We were in a way strategically well placed to kind of, I won't use the term cash in on this, but more in terms of being able to leverage this to our advantage, because we had launched even before the lockdown. We had devised a business continuity plan, a BCP. We had a satellite migration in the month of January, Hiral, and that prompted us to put in play a very strong business continuity plan. So the moment the lockdown happened, we were actually, fortunately kind of ready for the lockdown, and we did three things pretty much to do it. And I'm happy to elaborate if you give me an opportunity later. The first is that we had the business continuity plan for our staff. We moved into an L3 model where staff started living in the office for a couple of days, then they checkerboard with other technical staff. We had field staff going out with PPE. We had new technical models that we put in place to keep our signals and services running. That was one piece. The second piece that we followed was that we came out with, we had launched well before that, converting our subscribers to digital payments. That helped us tremendously, in terms of traction. And the third is we looked very innovatively at what subscribers like you and me, basically, who were locked down at home, some who had children, some who had, aged parents, different languages, what would they need during the lockdown? So I think those three factors put together really was able to help us, as they say, maneuver the difficult path from lockdown to today.
Right. So overall, if you go to see with regards to where, the company as a whole is concerned, if we talk about Q1 earnings as well,
right,
have they been in line with what you were estimating? Because a lot of sectors, a lot of companies were seeing a major impact coming in. Taking the challenging backdrop, we have seen the growth that has come in. How would you look at it?
Sure. As a business head, and my team probably will be, shaking their head, because I always say good is not enough, right? And we performed well. In fact, if you see sequentially, our EBITDA grew by sequential quarter on quarter. EBITDA grew by about 99%, which is very significant. And our revenues were in line with, well on course. But was it something that we would be happy with? I definitely don't think so. But I think what is the strong pivot in this? It shows that even in a situation like COVID-19, if you plan carefully, if you're able to put, pedal to the metal and work out, while companies could have had a major struggle, not just in other sectors, but in our own industry and sector as well, we actually saw a growth. In our subscriber numbers, which is something which is a very interesting thing, Hiral, because during a lockdown, the first thing that takes a hit, obviously there was migrants, right, which looked at it. But don't forget, there are also institutions like hotels, right, campuses, where a lot of temporary disconnections came out. Hotels, I mean, we're the only service provider in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right? We have about 20,000 customers in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. There was a challenge there. There was a challenge in Darjeeling. There was a challenge in hotels in Delhi, in Mumbai, and Bengaluru. Now, how did we surmount that? We surmounted that by also creating innovative packages, and we were able not just to deal with the temporary disconnections that happened, but also grow our subscriber base, not on the video side only, but also on the broadband side. So all in all, we ended up, as they say, we ended up in the credit column rather than in the debit column for Q1 of FY21.
Right. So obviously, what were the kind of challenges we faced as a company, as a business?
Okay. You're talking about specifically in the quarter, or
in
the quarter. Sure.
Of COVID right now.
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge that we faced was collections. By and large, Hiral, the cable television industry, unlike like DTH, was not a prepaid or digital mechanism. We as NXTDIGITAL Limited had this advantage over our peers that over 3 or 4 years, actually 5 years ago, we took the plunge to go prepaid, right? Today we are 99.5% prepaid. Now that helped us tremendously when everyone else was struggling to collect from the ground in a postpaid model. We were 99.5% prepaid from our franchisees. So our franchisees would collect money and would ensure that the service was provided only after payment was made. That kept us in good stead. The second thing that we did smartly, huge challenge again, was the subscriber. Right? You as a subscriber, you don't want someone coming to your home to collect money from. And we, way back in January, tied up with a company called EaseBuzz to help our cable operators collect money from their subscribers in a contactless manner, using Google Pay, net banking, credit cards, debit cards, UPI, Beam, all of the models. And I think that really helped us because today 85% of our franchisees collect money from their subscribers in a contactless manner. And we're really happy because as we speak, over 75% of our own base is now following that model of contactless payments. And there are stories of innovation. If you allow me, I'll tell you a very interesting thing that happened. See, we have a very significant base in rural India. And in rural India, it's not really easy to push digital payments because connectivity is not as great. One understands those challenges. And we found that our franchisees came up with really innovative methods. See, everyone has to go to the Kirana store, right, to pick up provisions. So a lot of our franchisees set up a little receipt book at the Kirana store where when someone went to pick up their grains, they'd also pay for their cable subscription and they'd fill up that little book there. And the franchisee in question would go there once a week and collect it. Or the Kirana store owner would just call up the franchisee and say, this many people have made the payment so you can activate their service. So there were a lot of interesting things that came up and a lot of passion that came up in this because the cable operator kept, let's face it, kept the wheels of this country in terms of connectivity going, right? Whether it be video to your home, as you said, most critical information, and broadband, right? So I think those were the biggest challenges that we faced. And the third biggest challenge, Hiral, is that credit, right? Everyone wanted credit because, lockdown phase. And we knew that would be a slippery slope from which there's no way that you can return. So what we did was we launched some very interesting packaging. We had like 425 channels at, barely 39 rupees, 40 rupees, 45 rupees to ensure that customers at home didn't feel the pinch, but continue to get the entertainment, but continue to pay. And at the same time, we kind of de-risked ourselves from the credit or postpaid model. I think all of this put together kind of, it stood us well for the test of time and for the test of COVID here.
Right. So taking all of this into consideration, you've been able to maintain your subscriber base even in times of COVID.
Yes.
Overall, if you go to see, there has been some bit of growth that has come in terms of video as well as data businesses as well. Now, going ahead, if you have to look at the next 3 to 4 quarters, do you think we will be able to see subscribers increasing? What's the kind of growth you are looking at in terms of different segments of business?
Right. So I'll tell you, we look at growth unlike the probably, and I'll share with you. See, growth for us is not just subscriber base here. For us, growth we measure it across 3 or 4 parameters. And I'll very quickly take you through it. One is, of course, subscriber base. And we're seeing traction happening, everyone's seeing traction happening as migrant workers are returning back to the cities, they're activating. Hotels, as a hotel, every hotel, as it switches on and starts operating, gives me 500 customers because it'll have about 400, 500 rooms. So, 500 customers come back on. So that is something that's a temporary disconnection. So we obviously will see that growth. But I think rural India is where you will see a significant traction as more and more people move from the free-to-air service to a pay service. So that is one fundamental only of measuring growth. The other 3 fundamentals that we look at is basically ARPU, SMR, and OTR. Put very simply, Hiral, you know the ARPU concept, which is the average revenue per user. We're seeing that average revenue per user again climb. So that obviously gives us the comfort that there is traction. We're coming out with innovative packaging as we speak. So that is one driver. Second is SMR, same month's renewal and on-time renewal. Just to put it very quickly, for your audience, on time, every day that you don't renew, let's say your subscription here expires today. For every day that you delay the renewal, we end up losing about 4 to 7 rupees, anywhere between 4 to 7 rupees per day per customer. Now, we've been encouraging the same month's renewal and the on-time renewal. And as we're doing that, if you look at it, for example, same month's renewal has gone up tremendously, and our on-time renewal as well has increased significantly. Now, those are parameters we believe which will keep us in good stead. So when we look at growth as a business, we're not just saying subscriber numbers. Subscriber numbers could go up, but at what ARPU, right? Getting another million subscribers at an ARPU of nothing with a loss, it doesn't really have that traction. But when you look at subscriber base, when you look at ARPUs, when you look at SMR, when you look at OTR, and you combine that all together with one more factor, which is the 90-day net churn, right? When you combine it, that's when you're actually able to, kind of keep it on track, the business for the next 3 to 4 quarters. So we're hoping to keep that consistent across these key parameters. On the financial side, there's also the debtor days, which we're very proud. We keep, subscription debtors as a percentage less than even 1% or less than even half a day for that matter. So those are parameters that we look at here, because I think, the business is such, it's like any other digital business, but with some really key caveats that it isn't just subscription numbers. Then we've got managed services, right? I mean, we're providing services to third-party MSOs. We've seen a lot of traction on that front. That's a long-tail business, right? Customers will come. We've signed contracts for over 5 million subscribers to provide managed services. We'll see them coming on board. We'll see that revenue coming in because that's all, directly to the bottom line. So I think we'll see that traction happening. We're quite happy with it. And COVID critically, is, everything else at the end of the day has one underlining factor, which is the COVID aspect. But the best part is that when you look at our parameters, that's not been the be-all and end-all of impacting our business.
Right. And then taking all of this into consideration, one positive that I see for NXTDIGITAL is the kind of exposure you have with regards to rural, semi-rural areas as well. And they are prominent markets for the company. Now, every conversation that we've been having right now, the end game is that it's rural India which is giving you growth signals right now. And that's something which is going to support the economy as well in times of COVID. Whereas the growth with regards to urban India is going to be slightly tepid. Taking this into consideration, what's the kind of growth you are envisaging for FY21 and 22?
Okay, so I'll tell you, Hiral, rather than, so what we do as a business is we kind of created our business into a matrix, right? So there are 236 pigeonholes that we have. Whilst rural India, semi-urban, semi-rural and rural India will drive the subscription numbers, The ARPU growth will probably happen in the cities. So we are customizing our products across different socio-economic classifications. So we have this matrix of socio-economic classification, demographics, psychographics, all of that put together, 236 pigeonholes. So for example, someone in the city living in South Mumbai, the package to that person would be something we've recently announced, which is a device called NXTConnect. NXTConnect is a home media gateway, which allows you to have the benefits of linear and live television. At the same time, you can have all your apps, Hotstar, Voot, Disney, Amazon, all of it. Plus, you could have things like Google Talk. You can use different services. You've got live television, OTT, YouTube, all of that put together, gaming, right? And that's combined with the 1 gig broadband to the home, and that's combined with the 730 channel plan. But that is not a product that we'll offer in outside of tier 1 markets. So we're customizing our products. So when you talk about growth, Hiral, it's very difficult to put a number across it because it's more segment-wise, where we'd like to see new products in the cities pushing the ARPU up, but not necessarily subscription numbers. While as the moment you step into semi-urban, semi-rural and rural India, we're seeing more traction in terms of subscription-based rather than revenue-based there. So we've balanced it out to work out multiple socio-economic classification growth verticals. I hope that was, I was able to explain that.
So then in these terms, then what's the kind of blended ARPU that we could see in FY21, taking into consideration, say broadband that you're expanding as well?
Okay, so see, broadband, the good thing about broadband is that the ARPUs are very healthy. There has been, someone raised the question last time saying that while the base has increased, the ARPUs have, kind of gone down a bit. And my answer to that was very simple, right? It reflects the next digital philosophy that broadband for us is not just the tier 1 cities, it's the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 markets. As you move into those markets, and it's also a volume game because we work through franchisees, right? Which is our cable operators. The moment you have these two factors, which is a cable operator being your franchisee, so there's a volume. And second is as you move into tier 2 and tier 3 markets, your ARPU will start to see, I wouldn't call it deterioration, but you'll start to see proper realization, while as your base keeps on growing. So we're up from literally in the first quarter, we've grown by about 50,000 subscribers just in broadband alone, right? From about 300 to 351,000 subs. Cable TV and broadband blended together will be again different socioeconomic classifications. But if you're looking at it, definitely you'll see an 8 to 10% increase pretty much across the board in terms of that growth factor, which by the way is a very healthy parameter given the incredible challenges of this year of having a blended rate,
Right. But any number that we could assign to it, because I do understand at least around the last number that I heard from, for Next Digital was around 350 for broadband. And apart from that, if we have a range between tier 1 and tier 3, tier 4 cities, it ranged from 100 to almost 192. So taking these numbers into consideration, on an average, what's the blended you're expecting?
So I think, like I said, the challenge for us is to kind of create blended. But let me give you the two separately, right? If you look at broadband, we believe the 300 rupee mark, anything around the 300 rupee mark is an excellent rate when you look at it. I'm talking about ARPUs, okay? Because you've already seen the kind of competition pricing, etc. You've seen pricing in small town India, and we've still been able to stay above the 300 rupee mark. That's great. The moment you go into video delivery, and you look at ARPUs in video delivery, while we're looking at a blended ARPU, I'm talking about DAS1, DAS2, DAS3, DAS4, we look at anywhere around 140 rupees. So when you look at an 8 to 10% growth there, that itself is significantly reflective of growth across all 4 segments. Because DAS4, for instance, would be pegged more around the 100 rupee mark, right? Anywhere between 95 to 105. Das one would be probably 180 to probably 100 and 200 rupees, somewhere in between, depending on which parts of the city. So I think when you're looking at about an 8 to 10% growth in the ARPU, that itself is significant when you multiply it. You know, the base multiplier is always there across it. So that's what we look at here, right, in terms of numbers.
So overall, if we have to look at rural and semi-rural, what's the kind of overall market share that we would have in different segments?
Okay, so 60% of our base comes from rural, semi-rural, semi-urban India, right? It is by far the most fragmented market ever, right? If you look at it today, and if you allow me, I'll just tell you the key numbers. So there's about 197 million television households in India today, right? Out of those 197 million television households, roughly about 100 million are CATV, cable television households, which are either hits or cable TV. 31 million, anywhere between 30 to 31 million, are the large pan-India players like us. And you're left with another anywhere between 60 to 70 million of homes, which are the regional independent MSOs, the smaller MSOs there. So when you compare it to that, the market share is probably barely about anywhere between 4 to 5%, right? So that actually reflects the potential that's there, because that is still a sector that is unorganized. And then when you look at that 197 million households, Hiral, as you know, just a couple of years ago, rural overtook urban, right? So rural television households now stand at about 109 million television households, while urban has gone down, right, to about 90 million odd. So that reflects the kind of potential that we are looking at. And like I said, it's not like we're some rural player. We have presence in the cities. We're a very strong player in the cities, but we've got a offering for every segment, an offering for SEC A+. We've got us, all the way down to rural India, where the impact, and another mistake that very often a lot of us make is rural India does not mean cheap. Okay, it's not cheap, right? There is a significant aspiration in those markets where people want value for money, right? And so we've created products there which are probably different from the cities, but not necessarily a cheaper variation, or as they say, it's not a diluted version of a product that I would offer in the cities being offered there.
Right. So overall, what would our aspiration as a company be with regards to increasing market share, say, over the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay. So my challenge always, Hiral, with numbers is that we're a listed entity now. So any forward-looking numbers becomes a challenge. But if I can put it to you very simply, if you look at the managed services opportunity, and if you look at whom we've already signed, we believe that anywhere between 20 million to 30 million television households serviced, I'm talking about serviced either directly or through managed services, reaching between 25 to 30 million households is not an impossible task. And while people may say, oh, that's huge, it's not really, because as I was explaining to you earlier, we're already at a 10 million base, right? We already have our own 5 million of managed services that we've signed on. There's over 70 million homes which are going through the independent or the smaller regional MSOs. We're looking to reach out to them and provide this managed service model. Assuming we're able to only tap into about 30% of that still takes us easily to about a 30 million mark. So I think the aspiration as an organization over the next 2 to 3 years is to build up that significant base and then layer it with multiple services, right? There's so much of future new digital services coming out. We believe there's great opportunity given the uniqueness of our offering.
Right. And taking this into consideration, what are the key geographies currently that we have dominance in?
Okay, so our markets are, in terms of dominance, we definitely have a very strong presence in Mumbai, Thane, Navi Mumbai, and Maharashtra. We have a very strong presence in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We have a very strong presence, pretty much in all the South markets. And we've got as well in the East, there's a significant presence. In the Northeast, we have a significant presence as well. So we're pretty much spread. Being a satellite service, Hiral, allows us to go into having said that, I'm not saying that don't have a strong presence in others, but these were markets that were focus markets that opened up. But I think the pride that comes into play is that when you go to Lakshadweep Island and Next Digital is available. When you go to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep is available. When you go to, with pride, when you go to Kargil, where our defense forces are, Next Digital is available, right? We say it with a lot of pride. When you look at Ladakh, when you look at Northeast India, right? The northeastern, far northeastern reaches. So being a satellite services, we've been able to bring digitization there. And it is our Prime Minister's vision of a digital India. And, we take that very seriously. We want to make sure that rural India, irrespective of where it is, has that access to digital services. So we've been pushing that there.
Right. So Vynsley, from here on, if you have to look at expansion with regards to geography, do you think we will look at expansion in the markets that we are currently present in? Or are we looking to tap any newer markets, say, in the next 12 to 18 months?
Right. So in the next 12 to 18 months, we will continue to focus on the markets where we have a significant presence. And there is a reason for that. The reason for that is very simple, is that we are looking to, as I was mentioning to you, grow the base, grow the ARPU, grow the SMR, and grow the OTR. New markets will be a function of the managed services we provide. So some of the MSOs we've tied up with will obviously take us into markets where we probably either have a very nominal presence or we've never had a presence before. So those are markets that we will get into on the back of a managed services customer. But in terms of a business, we will continue our focus on our own markets, because we believe that those are still not deeply penetrated to a great extent. And we believe that there's great potential to look at, continuing the growth story there, Hiral.
Right. So taking the expansion in the prominent markets that we are present in into consideration, any fundraising plans that we would have?
So we announced in our recent board meeting that we will be looking to raise, we've been looking to raise funds as well, looking to raise about 500 crores. There is that interest because we believe that there is a lot of leverage to expand our base. There is a great opportunity right now in terms of the business model. So we're looking at how do we take it further. Interestingly, as we speak, there are a lot of activities going on in terms of customers wanting to take more managed services, etc. Now, that doesn't necessarily require funding in any way, manner, shape or form, because the beauty is the capacity is already there and all we're doing is sweating the assets that we have. But there are a lot of smaller operators who look at other models, who would like some amount of, would like to kind of become a part of us, but need some kind of fund requirements, etc. So those are models, that we're working on, in the interesting models. We've got kind of, different models. So we're hoping that in the next probably 1 or 2 weeks, actually, in the next 1 or 2 weeks, to look at formalizing those aspects. Yeah.
Right. And very lastly, Vynsley, what I need to understand from you is with regards to what Jio doing. Now, Jio, the way they have been expanding right now, they have a clear-cut, expansion strategy that we've been looking at is that you buy their fiber optic, and with that, they give you their set-top box, which comes in free of cost, and that's how they're expanding their base as well. Now, that's a strategy that Jio has been using. How big a competition would Jio be for Next Digital?
All right. So I think Jio is an incredible model in itself, right? There's no doubt about that. I think the good part about our business and what we do, and when you compare it to Jio, is that our entire business model, our markets, our geographies are quite different. I'll explain. Jio is basically a terrestrial system, which, as you rightly said, is you buy Jio fiber and you will get all the services. Whereas the moment you go out of tier 1 cities or tier 2 cities, connectivity via terrestrial links, via fiber or whatever, the subscriber acquisition cost increases radically. And those are markets where Next Digital has continued to maintain its dominance and prominence because we deliver via satellite. Having said that, where it comes to the cities like Mumbai, Delhi, etc., which are high population density, see, our entire business model is based on a relationship and a partnership for growth with our franchisees, our cable operators. These customers are not owned by us. These customers are owned by our cable operators. It is our model to support our cable operators as they continue to grow their businesses. You know, they've got their own business model. And whether it is providing them with broadband, whether it's providing them with cable TV services, whether it's providing them with new devices, we'll continue to do that. And when you talk about the Geo model, for us, I think the great part about the industry is that it's no longer the cable wars of old, right? Geo is huge. It's much beyond. It's not just cable. It's everything, right? It's a very proud aspect as well. There's nothing to stop Geo companies like Hathway or Den or any of them, including other peers, from to ride on Next Digital's managed services to reach markets outside of the cities where there are challenges of connectivity, challenges of cost, or challenges of quality of service. So what I'm trying to get at is the beauty about our business model is that it is clearly segmented to have a different offering, not just at the subscriber level, but also at the B2B level, right? So today when I've tied up with 3 or 4 or 9 MSOs actually to provide managed services, it is on the basis of a certain relationship model. So we're happy to look at that kind of model wherever we go. So essentially, what I'm trying to summarize here is that we've got a different model that will, I guess, suit different geographies and that will suit different customers.
Right. So overall, are we saying that we do not have direct competition coming in from Geo?
I think Geo is a competition for anyone. There is no doubt about it. But like I said, where we are in the markets of semi-urban, semi-rural and rural India, right? Connectivity is a challenge. I'll give you a simple example here. You take any little village or hamlet outside of India. Let me take Andaman and Nicobar Islands. How do you connect Andaman and Nicobar Islands with a product that is a terrestrial product? It's a challenge unless you have fiber reaching there. How do you connect Kargil? How do you connect Ladakh? How do you connect the far east, far northeast region? So that is where there's a clear product that is customized for those markets. The clear product that delivers to those services. And therefore, I think there's a clear differentiation in the business model when you look at it, and there's a clear differentiation in the markets as well.
Right. Yeah, and I think right now it's more of a co-opetition versus competition that India should be looking at as well from here on to revive the growth story from here on. But thank you so much, Vynsley, for joining us on the show. It was a pleasure to speak to you. Great insights that we picked up not only about Next Digital, but about the industry as a whole as well. And we will see you back again soon. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you very much for having me, Hiral. Much appreciated.